Crawling from the depths of Tallahassee, an astounding horror like Florida has never seen. What you are about to witness may shock and terrify you. It's this week's legislative update. The week started with another attack on the Sunshine State on Monday. Florida has some of the best public higher education in the nation. This nefarious piece of legislation would hide the presidential selection process from the public. These university and college presidents and provosts are paid handsome fees and control billions of dollars worth of funds. Floridians are owed a say in the process.
Government in the Sunshine has always been something very precious to Floridians. I've always been very proud of the fact that we have that. And as I have followed the last few legislative sessions, every year we seem to have more and more bills that put us in the dark on different things. So the sunshine is going away, and we don't think that's the right way for the state to go.
Board of Trustees are not elected bodies. They're not accountable to the public. And they end up, at the end of the day, making the decision of who the president's going to be. So the process that the public has available to them is extremely important to get the information the public has to the body that's going to make the decision.
I rise in opposition to this bill. Florida's colleges and universities are supported by taxpayer dollars. In my view, as a Florida citizen, the public has a right to full access to any searches to fill any publicly funded position, especially provosts and presidents at our educational institutes.
Senate Bill 774 passed the Senate Education Board 6-4 and 1 against, and will continue on to the Governmental Oversight and Accountability Committee. Florida's citizens' initiatives are a valued part of our democracy. It comes as no surprise that Florida's big money interests want to destroy it. Senate Bill 1794 is yet another swipe at this right, seeking to make it even harder for citizens to collect signatures for their initiatives. The hearing began with a representative of Keep Our Constitution Clean, a shadowy organization that the press is currently looking into. Their background and funders unclear. Their motive, eradicate what little direct democracy the people of Florida still enjoy.
But we feel this bill continues its assault on the people's ability to have their voices heard by adding more barriers for getting constitutional amendments proposed by citizens' initiatives onto the ballot. Frankly, at this point, we feel let's put an end to the death by 1,000 cuts, and put the repeal of citizens' initiatives for constitutional amendments on the ballot. Let's just ask the people to decide whether we should continue this process.
Since 1920, the League of Women Voters has been an activist, grassroots organization. We believe voters should play a critical role in democracy. Floridians have led ballot initiatives when the legislature has failed to act on priority issues. This is when it's gotten out of sync. This bill makes that process so onerous as to silence our voice.
Despite the brave efforts of lovers of democracy from across the state, the bill passed the Senate Ethics and Elections Committee amended 4-3. The legislature continued assaulting the rights of voters and local control again this week with House Bill 305.
Could there have been anything that big up in the sky and not be picked up by radar?
Impossible, but I saw it myself.
This truly gargantuan piece of legislation lumbered into the local, federal, and Veterans Affairs Subcommittee on Tuesday. 305 is one of the most sweeping preemption bills in the history of our state and would overthrow countless local ordinances on wage theft, workplace safety, and civil rights protections.
A vote for this bill is a vote to wipe out existing, successful, and popular wage theft ordinances. A vote for this bill is a vote to wipe out popular, successful local human rights ordinances. A vote for this bill is a vote to wipe out ban the box ordinances in many communities before those efforts even get off the table. A vote for this bill will make it impossible to have those conversations about predictive scheduling and how do we protect small employers while also protecting employees from abusive scheduling by big box retailers, restaurant chains, and others. A vote for this bill will interfere in ordinances that require the use of registered apprenticeships on public works projects so that we can get our future generation of workers prepared for the challenges ahead. And because of its broad scope, this bill could do a heck of a lot more.
Broward County has a wage recovery ordinance. We have jury duty compensation, which would be wiped out with this legislation, in which we pay five days of jury duty versus the state's 3 days. We also have ordinances protecting individuals against discrimination for political affiliation, active military service members, which falls in line with the Human Rights Act, and to protect veterans. This language had no issue last year going in. So again, we urge you to take it, and Broward County just opposes the bill as it is written now. Thank you.
And one part about this bill that's really concerning for many of us is that it doesn't solve any problems. It completely repeals problem solving at a local level for the sake of what really does sound like some special interests in this space who just have a preference of how they want to operate their business.
305's path of destruction continued, passing the committee 10-5. It now continues on to the Commerce Committee, its final committee before it reaches the House floor. The monstrous oppression of our state workers took center stage on January 28th at the state capitol in Tallahassee and in Tampa, Miami, and Jacksonville, as brave state workers and their supporters stood up for fair pay and dignified treatment on the job.
And while a handful of dedicated people struggled to achieve the impossible, panic spread to all corners of the earth.
State workers make Florida run, and after years of neglect from the Capitol, they've had enough.
These individuals are human beings who have to ensure that they do not live paycheck to paycheck, and it is a fact that in the state of Florida we show them no respect. It is a fact that the public servants provide a vital service to make life better for the Florida residents, and every year they're forced to do so with less and less as their wages stay the same and the cost of the living increase.
We're here today to keep fighting for that wage increase. We're here today to fight for better working conditions. We have, in this building alone, we have employees that are working constantly, probably making less than $15 an hour, having to make a decision whether or not to take money to put food on the table, whether to pay for medication, or whether they have to put gas in their car. We should not have to be making that decision when it comes to working for the state of Florida.
It is well past time for our state employees to earn a living wage. And what we're talking about here is simply a cost of living adjustment. It has been more than a decade since any real across-the-board pay increase has been seen by our hardworking state employees.
The elimination of local control continued Wednesday with House Bill 157. 157 would seek to put an amendment to Florida's voters limiting the terms of school board members. While it may sound unassuming at first glance, it's yet another example of the creeping terror of preemption, forcing a one-size-fits-all approach to our local school boards and injuring our education system in the process.
Cute little things, aren't they?
Yeah. I'm going to throw a bomb at that when you watch on the screen, see what happens.
With term limits being imposed upon them by other counties. We have said this for years. If we could get to a point where we put something on the ballot that allows all counties to make this decision for themselves, that would be something we could get behind.
You could have A districts and B districts that have worked to improve their scores. You could turn those school board members out just because they were termed, and they would not be able to serve beyond. The voters in each county deserve the right to choose, and that's all.
House Bill 157 will continue its rampage through Tallahassee, passing the Oversight, Transparency, and Public Management Subcommittee with 10 yeas and 5 nays. We, the voters of Florida, have a direct voice in our democratic process with our Citizens Initiative process. It comes with little surprise that this legislature and their big money supporters are doing everything in their power to prevent any and all progress from being made by the citizens of our fair state. House Bill 7037 seeks to take that right from you, the people, and give it to the rich and powerful. This legislation continues the years-long sinister death by 1,000 cuts planned to prevent the average Floridian from seeing the change our state needs.
Can you imagine an army of these things descending upon one of our cities?
You look at the All Voters Vote initiative right now, it cost them $7 million just to get the signatures collected. They did use a professional signature gathering company because 766,000 plus signatures to be gathered in the amount of time that we give them is simply virtually impossible unless you have signature gathering companies to help you do it. And there's only 5 or 6 of those in the state of Florida. As we continue to make it more and more difficult for these companies to hire people to bring in these numbers, the cost of gathering these petitions goes up, the cost to the dollars that have to be raised continue to go up, and surely demonstrates to us that these are not citizen-led initiatives. The only way that citizens can be heard is either to be very wealthy or to have very wealthy pockets of contributions that will help them get to where they need to go.
House Bill 7037 passed the Appropriations Committee 20-10 and will continue to wreak havoc next in the State Affairs Committee. We'll keep you updated about this diabolical attack on our rights as citizens as it continues. Thursday, the attacks on our local government wasted no time in rearing its ugly head once more. House Bill 3 seeks to amplify the destruction caused by previous preemption laws by preventing local governments from enforcing their own licensing laws and standards, even eliminating some contractors from being registered at all. This bill would be uniquely deleterious for both consumers and workers, hurting both highly skilled craftsmen and lowering the quality and safety of their work. The House wasted no time in accelerating this legislative leviathan with little debate or voices of opposition. House Bill 3 roars on, passing the Commerce Committee.
So atomic weapons are out of the question in any built-up area. Tanks, of course.
In the face of this onslaught of dangerous legislation, Floridians from the Keys to the Panhandle and everywhere in between are answering the call to fight back for our working families.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Gates from the Hillsborough Classroom Teachers Association, 7432. This has been an experience, to say the least, the kind of conversations that we get to have with our legislatures, and they need to know what we think. You need to come up here and you need to join in this conversation. So let's fight the good fight together.
All right, I'm Mark Vigiano with the United Association of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, Local Union 123 out of Tampa, Florida. And I just wanted to say, you got to come up here, you got to volunteer, because even if you're not interested in politics, politics are interested in you.
Are you aghast at the continued ravaging of everything we hold dear here in Florida? Make your voice heard and join the Working Families Lobby Corps. Your voice helps us hold back the tide of terror cresting over Florida. Solidarity! This concludes our report from the front line. Be here next week as we continue to cover the terror from the state capitol.